The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Now, each year, Jesus' parents went to Jerusalem for the feast of the Passover, and when Jesus was 12 years old, they went up according to the festival custom. Now, after they had completed its days, as they were returning, the boy Jesus, he remained behind in Jerusalem, but his parents didn't know it. They thought he was in the caravan. They journeyed for a day, and then they went and looked for him among their relatives and kinfolk. But not finding him, they returned to Jerusalem to look for him. After 3 days, they found him in the temple, sitting in the midst of the teachers, listening to them and asking questions. And all who heard Jesus were astounded at his understanding and his answers. Now, when his parents finally saw him, they were astonished. His mother said to him, "Son, why have you done this to us? Your father and I have been looking for you with great anxiety." And Jesus said to them, "Why are you looking for me? Did you not know that I must be in my Father's house?" But they did not understand what he said to them. He went down then with them and came to Nazareth and was obedient to them, and his mother kept all these things, pondering them in her heart. And Jesus then advanced in wisdom, age, and grace, for the favor before God and man. The Gospel of the Lord. Amen. I received a special Christmas present this year. I don't know if you can see it, and especially see it at home, but it's a polo shirt, and it was given to me by Tony Nessie, who's a really very good friend of mine, and her husband Bob Maguda, and it says Taschetta, that's my last name, and it's Taschetta, not Taschetta. You say bruschetta, not bruschetta. So when you go to the restaurant, you know what to say. Si. But underneath it says in Italian, La familia è tutto, which means the family is everything. And for myself, as an adoptive father with 2 children and 7 grandchildren, I just absolutely concur with that. And yet, that's not the family. There's a whole lot more to the family than that. And today, Luke expands a little bit about our notion of family in this really kind of neat gospel. I really like this pericope of Luke's, because it's so different from the holy cards that we've been given of the Holy Family since we were children. I know you all seen them. There's Mary looking lovingly at Joseph, and he's in the carpenter shop. And he's teaching Jesus, and he's making little crosses. Yeah? It's almost like you knock on the door, and Joseph comes. He says, "Come on in, the little lady and I and baby Jesus, we're just about to say the rosary. Come on." That's the Holy Family. They don't exist. They never have, they never will, and yet when we hold this up as an ideal, then everybody's going to fall short of the mark, even the Holy Family, by a long shot. Today, Luke is a little more realistic, and I just love the whole idea, because they go up to Jerusalem, they do what they're supposed to do, they're at the Passover. Mary and Joseph come back, and of course, this is an extended family. And when you're in an extended family, when you're in a caravan, it's my grandchildren, my Mexican grandchildren, grew up in a little town called Onarga, which is south of Kankakee. They grew up in an extended family. They would go on a weekend and never see their parents, because they were there with their aunts and their uncles and their cousins, but everybody knew that they were safe. Well, so Joseph and Mary were quite sure. The boy was fine. He was with the rest of the relatives, but after a day, you want to check on him. No Jesus. And so they hide back to Jerusalem. And for 3 days, you would have thought they would have gone to the temple first, but for 3 days, they're looking high and low for Jesus, and then they finally come to Jesus in the temple, and he's there with the elders, and they're asking him questions, and he's asking them questions, and they are astonished. And then Jesus is saying, and then Mary is saying, and I think this is wonderful. She says, my son, well, why did you do this to us? She's taking it personal. Your father and I have been, the Blessed Mother is anxious, the woman of great serenity. And when we see the pictures of the Blessed Mother, she's perfectly calm in all situations. Oh, crying, of course, at the cross, but always somewhat in control, not now. And I dare to say there isn't a mother alive who has ever been in control when it came to their kids. At some point, they lost it. Well, Mary's losing it. Mary's saying, for 3 days we've been looking for you, anxiously looking for you. She says, your father and I have been anxiously looking for you. At this point, you can almost hear Robin Williams do his Jesus imitation and turn to St. Joseph and say, you're not my real dad. He doesn't do that. But he does say, I must be about my Father's business. Did you not know I have to be in my Father's house? And they don't get it. Neither do we. There is so much in our family. There is such a complexity in our own individual families that we don't always get it. We don't always see it. Then Luke ends the little story, and I like the ending of the story quite a bit, because he goes back home, and he's a true adolescent. He's a true 12-year-old. He's saying, I got my own agenda. They always say that an adult walks up to a sign, it says wet paint, and they walk away. And an adolescent walks up to a sign, it says wet paint, and they go, yeah, that's wet paint. Their job is to test. I tell parents all the time, your kids are going to push you, test you. They're going to say, are you real? Is your faith real? Is all this stuff you've been making us do for the last 12 years, is it real? They're going to test you. Well, he's testing his parents. But then he goes back home, and Luke says he was obedient. Obedere means he listened to them. And this is the best part. And he grew. The Son of Man grows in wisdom. He's getting smarter. Age, grace. He's opening up his soul, and it's expanding. I love the fact that Jesus continues to learn throughout. And of course, the greatest lesson he learned, one of the greatest lessons he learned was from the Syro-Phoenician woman who just would not back down with him. Made him change his mind about her completely. So he's growing. What is the lesson from all of this about us in our family? I think lesson number one is that life is messy, and families are messy. And I have a hunch that families are messy by design. Because if we can survive not only our nuclear family, but the family of the school that we are brought into, or the family of the convent that we grow up in, if we can survive that, we can then learn how to negotiate and navigate the world. It is the school. The family is the school where we learn to love and learn to forgive. Why? Because you may walk away from your family. You may never talk to your family for 20 or 30 years, but you never divorce them. Their blood, both physical and, by extension, spiritual, flows through your veins. There really is no great divorce with anybody who's ever been in a relationship and have that relationship cut out. We're still connected for better or for worse. So if we can learn to love and to forgive, we are in a wonderful, especially, I think, with our siblings. Now, those of us who were fortunate to have a number of siblings realize, and when I hear children's confessions, the number one sin is, bless me, Father, if I have sinned. I fought with my brothers and sisters. I said, good for you. Because that's the only way you're going to learn. If you can negotiate and survive your brothers and sisters, you can negotiate with anybody. And they're not going away either. We really are this incredible web. We really are where we push one, the other one jumps. We really are so wonderfully, incredibly interconnected. Our siblings are indispensable. They teach us how to live with each other. And it doesn't depend on the physical family. Really, truly, this is a family that I am speaking to right now. And those of you who are at home, I'm sure you know that your family is more than just the loving people that you have around you right now. One of my favorite passages of Jesus looks like a great insult to his mother when they say, your mothers and brothers and sisters are outside, they want to see you. And he says, who is my mother, my brothers, my sisters? And in Mark's gospel, he looks around at the dirty dozen and he says, this, my mother's brothers and sisters, those who hear my word and fulfill me. So he's extending it way beyond blood. Blood may be the first line, and of course in Jewish days blood was everything, but Jesus is saying it goes way, way beyond blood. I remember as a little boy in second grade, I was missing something fierce, and I knew it was. I just didn't know what it was. All of my grandparents had died before I was born. As a matter of fact, I was born on the day that my paternal grandmother died. Her name was Marie Antoinette. That's the reason I was named Anthony. And there was a lacuna, an emptiness in my heart. And I can remember going around the neighborhood, and I finally found this little old man and a little old woman. Mr. and Mrs. Lamb was their name. Never had children of their own. But he was my grandfather. I needed grandfather energy. I think if we are open enough, God will provide. We talk about the providence of God, what we need. And I really needed that energy. I remembered that when my own grandson, Emmanuel, or my own grandson, Louis Anthony, my younger grandson, lived with me for a year in Elmhurst. And he came because he wanted grandfather energy. So I was his grandfather, and one day he just wasn't doing his homework, and I was just ragging on him something fierce, and the tears came down his eyes, and he said, I came here because I wanted a grandpa, not another parent. I said, do the words in local parentis mean anything to you? He went, no. In place of your parents. Oh, it was just terrible. It was the most difficult year that I can remember. I had forgotten what it meant to try to raise an adolescent. At the end of the year, I felt like an absolute failure. And one of my parishioners came up and she said, oh, Father, our stock in you has really gone up. I said, are you kidding? I was the worst. She said, no, you don't get it. Now, we know that you know what we know. Is, oh boy, do I know what you know. It's messy. It's difficult. It's glorious. He went back to Columbine High School where he came from, and he made the honor roll the next year. Whatever it wasn't me. But the grace of God works through that family, that extended family, that adopted family. Oh, it doesn't know boundaries. It doesn't need boundaries. So we, as we heard in the beautiful first reading today, are the children of God. All of us. All of us. But what we shall be, we're not quite sure of yet, but when we get it, when we see it, we shall be like him. Well, that's our journey. Our journey right now is to be like the divine one. This whole season is about the great exchange between the divine and the human. So as the divine comes into the human becomes divine. What we shall be when we see it will be like him. Our holy work is to do it now, and to do it with our family. La familia è tutto.